Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So the theme is we're dealing with the interview, the roaring fighting spirit. It might or might not be linked below in the description because there's a possibility YouTube won't let me because YouTube emailed me, told me that I was a threat to the community because I was sharing certain content that I didn't like. So I might or might not be able to put the link in the description. If not, then just go to Substacks, the Materialist Quartet, and you'll find it there, inshallah. So the roaring fighting spirit, that was the theme of an interview that I did with Qadira Muhammad on Radio 786. This was a while back. This was in 2021. And it was part of the series where we talked about the best of women. We were covering at this point Asiyah AS. It was this part of the series where we started to include the dua for Allah SWT to expand our chest as inspired by Musa AS. So we're going to pray for that again. Ameen. And this was a man who, up until this point of the story, was cultivating a simple life, and now he must face this giant monster, which is Firawn. So here we build up to the theme of standing up and speaking truth to power, to overwhelming various forces. So where's the leverage? And the greater truth is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best leverage, despite all their politics and military, etc. And I think this is a very relevant theme if you consider what's happening today. So now focus is turned towards the woman, especially Asiyah alayhi. So we're all, much like the male protagonists, they too demonstrate that sometimes our adversity becomes our strength. And this goes against the grain of Western imperialist indoctrination that we are more, we have more. Now I'm almost embarrassed to bring up the Hobbit hero story because I was thinking the story of Musa actually reminded me of it as I was going through it. But there's a reason for this, and there's a reason why the Lord of the Rings was so successful. And it's because there's something encoded in the good versus evil theme that compels us to seek these patterns. If we're decent enough human beings, we will find this theme attractive. That's put in us to find it attractive. So even marketers, people who do marketing, have actually used this. They've spotted this and they use this to their advantage. And we have a simple people focused on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala against the backdrop of, grand Egypt, which was very detailed and built up, subhanallah. So to this day, we have activism against corrupt governments and corporations, especially now. But if we forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we squander our energy and we become imbalanced. So many people are claiming to be activists who are raging fantasists when activism should be based on actualism and the pursuit of justice and fairness. Then in facing these giant opponents, it's easy to be overwhelmed with fear and anxiety. Here, like Musa alayhi salam, we ask that our chests be expanded and for our tongues to be untied. We follow this example of never rejecting the cause, but in asking for assistance. So we remember that Asiyah alayhi salam, she contributed to this character development of a man who has been pushed out of his comfort zone, leading to positive masculinity and leadership. To me, but masculinity is just, it is what it is, and it's always by default positive. Because it's linked to growth, it's linked to chivalry and protectiveness. Musa alayhi salam shows us that leadership is accountability, whereas Firawn shows us that false leadership that we're seeing a lot today is about power and superiority over others. Now, typically, he mocks Musa alayhi salam and his brother before they show their miracle. This is the staff used as a symbol of authority. Now, first there was the hand incident, but now I want to focus more on the staff. Firawn had his, we know this historically. The shepherd has his, remember the incident with the burning bush? And I was going to ask him, what is that you're holding? Rhetorically, of course. And he mentioned that this is his staff. And he uses the staff the shepherd uses the staff to guide and claim his flock. Now, here's where things get interesting if you're a grammar nerd. The Arabic letter lam in Arabic or lamad in Hebrew, which is, so I'd say parallel or consistent or contemporary to the Roman letter L, and I think the Greek it's lama. So this was originally, whether you're looking at it from a Paleo-Hebrew point of view or whether you're looking at it from a Phoenician point of view, the L or the lam or the lamad, this was originally a staff. Okay, the lam as a particle or word means four. So like first let's look at the staff. You think about it, it's like this. So in Arabic it kind of goes like that. Okay, my camera might be doing something weird. It might be flipping the side, but you know what it looks like. I'm gonna stick a thingy there. So the lam was a staff. The L, the Roman letter L, it was either way. It was a staff. It was the original symbol was that of a shepherd's staff. Okay, so just pause and absorb that for a second. The lam in Arabic as a particle or word means for. Okay, an example would be lillah, meaning for Allah, because the original symbol that became lam or lamet or the letter L was a staff that you pull towards. So if you think about a shepherd with his staff, he uses it, he pulls his hand towards he uses the staff to pull the sheep towards himself. You understand? So that's why it's significant. It's for, as in for, bringing towards. So that's why it's very significant from that point of view. Now, the miracle with the staff was after he used his hand to turn white from his chest, and this too was rejected as magic, as we know. Now, the Arabic root word for magicians, as you all probably know, is sihr, and it's safe to say illusionism would be a good translation for this word. Today, celebrities are often referred to as the magicians of pharaohs. The magicians back then had their own followers and were all scattered around, and then they were all gathered together to work for Firawn. Of course, there was monetary gain, much like today. So we'll see like certain celebrities today are backing certain governments and states, and there's always money involved. Like there was even exposure not too long ago where people who are influencers were actually showing emails where they were being bribed or they were offered money by the Zionists to support Israel, so to speak. So it's happening now still. Not much has changed. So they were gathered to work as a team for the state, much like entertainers today. And of course, yeah, so not much has changed. So people seem to have this idea that if you have a good vocal range, somehow you're a geopolitical expert. But today, celebrities disagree with the status quo, then they get cancelled. The magicians of Firawn, they were killed and they were executed in a very specific way. They were crucified and they had specific limbs chopped off. That's actually consistency, because if you go into ancient Egypt history, you will find that there are records where they didn't just kill people, but they would actually sometimes chop off the nose or a certain part of the body. So, especially in the time of Ramesses II, and that's another reason why people, not for this reason, but for other reasons. But this is an interesting consistency where we find that in the time of Ramesses II, torture and executions were particularly intense during his period. And it's very similar to the Roman Empire when they were executing Christians, but they were killing them, but they were doing it in different ways. They would like put them in the gladiators. They'd have these mazes where they would have like beasts chasing them through mazes, and they were like, there was the death of 1,000 cuts. So a lot of interesting and creative ways that they were torturing people and killing people. Now, according to Amnesty International, according to Amnesty International's history of torture, they used different methods. Different methods were used by Romans to keep people guessing. And so Firawn may have had a similar idea of, okay, I'm going to kill these people by crucifixion. The hairdresser gets boiled to death with her children, and then later Asiyah, we see Asiyah AS, she has the rock dropped on her. So everybody gets killed in a different way, because then the subjects are kept guessing as to what might happen to them. You understand? So domestic abusers use similar strategies, and they incorporate the psychological aspect of torture, not just the physical. So besides that, okay, this might seem a little off topic, but I was inclined to think of Nefertari as a possible historical Asiyah alayhi salam. But now looking deeper into her profile, I found that it's not the case for a variety of, and I mentioned that in the next coming podcast. I think it was the one to do with literacy. But in the next part, so if you say tune, you subscribe, you say tune, you'll find out why I don't think it's Nefertari. In my opinion, it's somebody else. But I'm very glad that I went into Nefertari's profile because it gave us a lot of insight into the environment, the conditions, and into Firawn himself, if it is who a lot of people think is Ramesses II. So now Nefertari, she was very proud to be a scribe and she was a great political strategist. Yet despite having a great mind, her husband in her tomb has written this poetry about her looks. He's very, very concerned with appearance. Okay, there's a lot of other evidence to support that as well. But regardless of who Asiyah salam may have been historically, we find that she was inspired by the sacrifice of the hairdresser with her children, and then the hairdresser was inspired by the magicians. So it was this domino effect which makes sense in terms of social science. Because today we are witnessing the Palestinian movement reach a fever pitch. It has rocketed like never before, but unfortunately, it's the overwhelming, varied, and relentless persecutions from the pharaohs of today that showcase the faith and resilience of the people. Palestinians have inspired hope, faith, and even shahada here and there. We've had people converting here and there. The situation has exposed the moral fiber and the true intention of each soul, regardless of the label. So we have to reflect on the color and the dazzling brilliance of ancient Egypt in its original splendor. Then we have to appreciate the laughter of Asiyah alayhi salam, as her laughter was the laughter of spiritual enlightenment. From that, we can take at least some solace as we helplessly witness this massive genocide unfolding, knowing that there is more beyond this world. Alhamdulillah. At the same time, like Asiyah alayhi salam, we have to persevere to the bitter end. Those before us, and so many now, are going through so much worse. And so who are we to lose courage? That is the lesson of Asiyah alayhi salam, and that is what we have to absorb for today. So with that, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and Ramadan Mubarak.